We're here.
We're here. Do we have any public input? Delene, are you the IT master for the meeting?
I am. I'm going to allow her to speak. So let me just see if she wants to raise her hand. Madeline, if you'd like to speak, can you just please raise your hand electronically?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay. You can speak whenever you're ready.
Yes, hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. We just wanted to voice our support as local residents here at 20 Chipmunk Lane with younger children in elementary school, that we think this would be a welcome addition to our community, both locally and, you know, adding and contributing value. And we definitely support and approve it, and have various other families locally here that are in even Fox Run with us that approve of the same.
I'm sorry. Can you just so that the folks in the meeting know who you are? So it says Madeline, but I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
not
sorry,
Madeline
this is
speaking.
Zach. Yeah, this is Zach and Madeline Bennett. We live at 20 Chipmunk Lane. I would like to voice our continuing support for Schoolhouse Academy.
You might be on the wrong meeting. Am I missing something, guys?
That's what I was just going to say too.
Yeah, the meeting that you guys jumped onto is the Tree Advisory Committee meeting.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure that if you had something that we could address, that we would be able to help you.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
Absolutely fine, guys. Take care.
Sorry.
Right.
We have
I
no one else.
Trees there too.
was confused.
I'm very disappointed you missed an opportunity there for a new tree liaison.
Oh, don't worry. I wrote down their names and their address. I'm going to email.
Okay, we have their email now.
Put trees at that project they support.
Okay, so I understand that we have meeting minutes from the 26th and May 24th. So April and May meeting minutes need to be approved. I saw the May meeting minutes. I made sure I read through it because I was not able to attend that meeting. So I approve of those unless anybody has anything they want to add.
One small typo, item number 5, first line, Mr. Sotnick said. I think that the word said should be in there.
Let's see.
Okay, and then April 26th as well.
I thought I had some corrections in April. I thought I'd sent them to you. I didn't double check.
I think they got corrected because I went through April and they looked good.
Of course, no, doesn't want to open. I'll assume they're correct.
So, okay, so are we all in agreement to approve the April 26th meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And what about the May 24th?
Okay, let me just go back to April, Erica.
Sure.
They didn't, basically, when Jeff said I was representing the Tree Alliance, I'd be representing the Norwalk Tree Advisory Committee on that walk. So if I had sent that in, it didn't get corrected. It's just a matter of correcting it for records. So that's bullet point, report NTA activities under 2, Lena.
Okay, so NTA activities number 2
Right.
for the April 26th meeting minutes. And we want to add the word said into number 5 in the May 24th. Anything else?
I
Okay,
think
then-
Peter froze.
I'm pros.
No, he didn't. Peter's pensive. He's not frozen.
I'm pensive. I'm thinking.
Okay, so with those two changes, I move to approve April 26th and May 24th meeting minutes. Okay, I'll take thumbs up and head shakes yes as we can move on. Okay, so capital tree planting program. I don't know if folks saw the article that Nancy Norwalk wrote, talking about how we planted far more trees than we actually removed. And when I say removed trees, I shouldn't really use the word removed, because trees that come down as a result of storms and other things are included in that number. And this year we planted far more than came down either by natural or unnatural causes. And so Paul has some kind of exciting updates for the planting program.
Okay, I'm gonna share the screen with everyone. Can everybody see the screen?
Got it.
Okay, essentially, we have the different categories of funding that I just wanted to talk about so that we can break out what we did and what we actually participated in that were paid by other areas. And in doing so, we had our trees that were funded through the capital budget process, DPW Tree Advisory Committee, and there's 38 of those that were planted at the various locations that were listed in the spreadsheet that's attached. And that totaled for this spring period, it was 25,496.50. And then we also had 11 that we did on Wall Street that were planted and paid for through the Transportation, Mobility, and Parking Department's account. We had others that we've now done through the Department of Economic Development, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Initiative, and it was a DECD grant that they had applied for. And we had done 81 trees in that area. And that area is between Low Street and Washington Street on Martin Luther King. And as I mentioned last month, Peter and Rich and I were out, and Peter and Rich assisted in the selection of the species and where we thought they would be best placed. And that was 81 trees. And we've also put in 20 trees at 15 Madison on the Monroe Street side, and 3 trees at 28 Dr. Martin Luther King St. Paul's Place. That's all been completed since last month, and that's why I'm giving you an update. This is basically the final update for the spring planting, and it basically changes the numbers from what we had last month and actually increases them. So there was 104 trees planted as part of the DECD grant, and then as part of the Woodward Avenue area National Fish and Wildlife Highstead grant, that was the $10,000 one for that area that Lisa Shanahan and Louise Washer and Lori Muir were involved in. We were able to get 18 trees out of the $10,000, which is more than we thought. And the Department of Public Works had agreed to dig the holes for the in-kind service match as part of that grant. And as a part of that, Homestead agreed to reduce the prices by 40% since we were doing some of the work for them. So we were able to get 18 trees out of that. And I was able to get that, and we left a whole $21.10 out of the 10,000 on the table.
Shame
So
on you.
all totaled, we planted 171 trees this spring. And then combining that with what we had for the fall of last year, and then what was done by TMP up on Wilton Avenue, the 18 and the 75, it gives us 264 total trees for the fiscal year, which basically accents what Erica had just talked about. We had only taken down 240, and that's all of the stuff the city had done. So we well exceeded what we had taken down with the new plantings that we've done this year. And that's the first time that's ever happened.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to highlight is that some folks had earned a grant, and by working with Paul and the TAC committee, the grant was able to be spread and purchase a lot more trees than initially thought, because we were able to use our pre-negotiated pricing and pre-dig the holes. So I think it's really important to note that, you know, they thought they were going to be able to plant X number of trees with this grant, and because of the work that mostly Paul put into this, they were able to get 18 trees out of it and still have money left over, instead of, I think it was like 14 trees with no money left over. So so that's a really positive thing. So so thank you for that, Paul. The development for fall 2022, spring 2023 tree planting locations, we actually have quite a few that are still left over from this last one. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes, we have probably 30 to 40 locations that we already have. Some of them up on Elmwood Avenue. We knew we had 11, but we weren't ready to do those yet because of the construction for the sidewalks hadn't been completed. And then we've got several other ones that we've still got listed that basically we just ran out of time with this spring, and it's too late at this point to start planting any more trees now that we're in June. So we'll carry those over to the fall.
Okay, so 30 to 40. So what is our target number for the fall?
Okay.
How many trees
One of
can
the
we
things-
plant? That's, yeah.
One of the things that I want to mention, and this will come up a little later when we talk about the grant funded RFP that we're working on. We've got money now where we have $200,000 in ARPA funding that we have for planting trees. It comes out to $100,000 a year that we have to spend that, because it can be spent over 2 years. So what we were getting as 65,000 before, we now have 100,000 to spend for the next 2 years, for a total of 200,000.
Okay.
So we got a lot of areas we can plant trees.
Good.
Okay, that's great. So what is our target number for the fall?
Well, 100,000, right, for the fall?
If we
Well,
can
no,
find,
that's for an entire year,
Right.
right?
so that is correct, Erica. So
Okay.
we have the 100,000. So we have now 50,000 for a cycle. So we could probably find, if we have 60, 65 trees, depending on the species, we could easily meet the $100,000.
Okay, so we're looking at maybe another 25 trees in addition to what we have left over. That's what I'm trying to get at, so that we know when we're targeting areas, what's realistic, what's not. So we probably want approximately 25 more trees to piggyback on the 30 to 40 that we have left over from this last cycle. This way we can end up planting a good 60 trees in the fall.
And that's one of the things in the first spreadsheet that I mentioned too, the funding sources. Depending upon where they are, we end up having different areas that we can put the funding, whether it be through this grant that will continue on MLK, whether it's through ARPA funding, which is anywhere in the city, our capital budget money, which we still have $8,500 left, we can do anywhere in the city. And we've got some other funds too. So I'm trying to balance where we spend it, depending upon the geographical locations, so that we're putting them in the best spots to maximize the grant money that we get. An example would be too, the areas down on 15 Madison and 28 MLK. They were part of the MLK initiative. Finally, originally we were going to do those through our capital, but they fit that grant program. So I was able to slide them into that program and save the capital budget money for having to spend that to do it.
Awesome.
Question for you. We don't have to evenly split the fall, spring cycle, right? Because historically we plant more in the fall than the spring.
That's correct.
I just don't want to deplete the spring cycle.
So it doesn't have to be 50,000, 50,000. We could do 75,000, 25,000, or any mix that comes across, correct?
That's correct. So right now, then, like you said, the 50,000 per cycle, 100 per year, plus we still have 8,500 in the capital too. So we have a little extra on that also.
Awesome.
Need a good target area.
Great.
I'm thinking.
Well, one of the
There-
things too, we're gonna take a look at is some of the areas to plant. And we might be able to put some different things in, and we can talk offline about that too, when we try to strategize with where we're gonna put all of the trees. But we're gonna try putting them in some other areas too that we haven't done in the past.
The reality is if we all just drove around, an 8-block radius, we would be able to, write down tons and tons of places where trees would be appropriate. Just, on my ride to 95 from my house, I mentally note like the same 4 or 5 houses that are in sore need of some trees up front, and the overhead wires are on the other side of the street, so it's prime location. So I don't think that we'll have a problem, spending that, that's for sure.
Please start
Okay.
sending the list, and between Cindy and I, we'll put the list together and we'll take care of it.
Awesome. So if anybody has any ideas then for locations, you're saying to send an email to you and Cindy so you could start compiling that list. Okay,
Yes.
and there you go.
And-
All right,
And
awesome.
even if you have
awesome.
any ideas for species, what you think would be good there, put that into and we can work from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes, I think Paul, sort of towards, as we get that list together, let's pull out a map and let's see where those little dots go citywide. So we can get the coverage
Exactly.
if we want it, and other holes may show up.
Yeah, and we can use programs like 2 meetings ago, we had that person show us where tree coverage was in Connecticut. And I think using that as, kind of a place to start if we want to start, concentrating our efforts would be a good thing too. Okay, update tree planting program contract RFP. Is that TAC
Okay,
related?
or well, yeah, yes, it is, because it's what we're gonna end up using for the contract. And as I mentioned last month, when talking with purchasing, our current contract with Homestead has a cap of $130,000 per year. With the money that's gonna be going through this contract, $500,000 from economic and community development, combined with the $200,000 that we have, is $700,000. The purchasing agent had recommended that we put out another RFP and advertise it, and we've gotten the information back on that. And we have the interviews tomorrow for the company that we're going to interview, and with the purchasing agent tomorrow morning. We have that with Rich, Ken Hughes, and I will be interviewing them along with Sharon Connors, the purchasing agent. And that will help for this program because it was specifically for grant funded trees and stuff that was going to be going through the ARPA program, because there's certain federal language that has to be in the contract that isn't in the current contract. So that combined with the amount of increase from the 130 to the $700,000 was a huge increase. They wanted us to advertise the RFP again, which we've done.
Okay, great. And so you'll keep us posted after those interviews?
Yes, we'll be basically making a decision to put an item on the agenda for the Public Works Committee, the Common Council, for the July 5th meeting, to recommend that it be approved for the full council meeting on July 12th. So at the next Tree Advisory Committee meeting, I can let you know who the successful candidate was.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you. 2 grants. So TAC was recently awarded 2 grants. One was from the Connecticut Urban Forest Council, and the other is an urban forestry equity through capacity building grant. Both of these I received notification that our grant submission was selected. The CT Urban Forest Grant is exciting in that it allows us to train and pay 2 college students to enter trees into the GIS programming system. Paul has met with them. They have the app downloaded onto the phone. And after the 4th of July, we're going to start seeing some more trees loaded up into that system. And so it's nice to be able to pay these students as they are being trained in measuring, the tree with DBH and noting the size and the general health of the tree and some other kind of barometers that we're going to put into the system. They're going to photograph the tree and then meet with Paul, myself, and whomever else is available. We're hoping Chris Torrey and some other people will be able to work with them as well, make sure that they've properly identified the tree and all the information is complete. So that's the urban forestry grant, the urban forest grant. The forestry equity through capacity building grant is a grant that we're going to be collaborating with the housing authority in Norwalk. Where I've already started speaking with Adam, who is the director of housing authority, and we are going to probably concentrate those efforts at Rudner Court and the Children's Learning Center. So once we start meeting with Adam and his people, we'll have more details about that. But if you recall, that's the grant that I submitted asking for some trees around the perimeter of the Children's Learning Center, that outside area where they're kind of on display to the road. And they're in a very industrial area. And so this would kind of beautify that and give them some privacy as they sit outside and play or eat their lunch. And also create a little more cohesive green space at the Children's Learning Center. So again, once we meet with the key players at the Housing Authority and get permission to do certain things, we can, kind of report back and let everybody know tree selection and timing and all of that fun stuff. Okay, anybody have a question or anything about either of those? Okay. Olmsted tree watering schedule, Paul, did they give that to you today?
Yes, they did. I'm pulling it up right now. And this is the watering schedule for the month of June. They've basically gone through and updated everything that they had, and a lot of the items from previous months up in this area, they haven't had to do anything. They went through and they did started over at the 151 Woodward Avenue. You can see they started in June 17th of 22. These areas they started going down further into the Calf Pasture Beach. Some of the ones that we planted in May of last year, they've gone through Cavalry Road, those areas. They didn't have to do anything with them. Then they get down to some of the newer ones that we started planting in the spring of last year in June. They hit some of those, you can see the 22nd, the 18th, they were down on Merrimack. And then these are the ones that we've just planted in Wilton last year, the fall of last
Paul,
year.
if I can
You
just
see they've
interrupt
started-
you. Yeah, Paul, if I can just interrupt you for a second, is there anything that we need to be alerted about? Are there trees that were planted that are not being watered? Are there areas that maybe they forgot about or are not getting attention, or is everything okay?
Nothing right now that comes to mind. I talked with Gary from Olmsted, and Gary told me that basically they're doing watering with the watering truck right now. And the ones that haven't been watered, they've checked and didn't need anything at this point. And they said that they have gator bags that they will be installing on some of the other trees as we get later into the summer.
Okay, great. So just keep us posted if there is an issue that we need to address. Otherwise, this looks, this looks fine. I mean, it's hard to tell what's happening. Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you. Oh, I didn't realize this was still on here, the TAC website. So we're basically just trying to bolster our online presence. We have, over the last couple of years, included some short bios for each of us, cute pictures for each of us. And we want to continue to add to that. And so we spoke with Larry, is that his name, Paul, in IT?
Yes.
So we spoke to Larry in IT and he said that we can upload, or we can't upload, but we can send them to him and he can upload photographs. And so I would love to kind of advertise some of what we do, like this Martin Luther King planting or the Arbor Day program that Rich ran over with the cleanup and all of that, and to just kind of highlight some of these things so that people can understand that we do plant trees, but we also maintain things. And we also participate in a lot of programs around town. And, Paul and I were at an Earth Day program. And so I'd like to ask people to send me 1 or 2 representative photographs from anything that you or TAC has been involved in, and then just let me know the name of the program and the date it took place. And we can kind of cull through and pick maybe, as many as Larry will let us, and start getting those things up on our website. Okay, this way
One of
people
the
can
things-
click on it, see pictures, but again, nobody wants to see 15,000 pictures of one event. So just pick like 1 or 2 like representative photos.
One of the pictures I think would be great, I commented to Paul, I don't mean to interrupt, but the trees we planted at the cemetery on Richards Avenue, I went by a week or 2 ago. The size that they've increased, now they really make a statement. So just post a picture of the line of trees going down Richards Avenue and dating the year we put those in, because now they really have some volume. That would look great.
They're in fertile soil.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Peter.
No, the reality is they're actually an open lawn, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And
And-
I agree. I see those when I drive to NCC, and they really do make a statement, and they
Yeah, they
really
make a
are
huge statement.
impactful. So I think that's exactly, and I was there when they were all planted. So I think that's exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for to put onto the website. So if you could send those emails, I would love to have them before our next meeting. Larry said it's a little bit of a downtime for him. So if we could send them over now, I think it would be a really good time for him to, work on that without interfering too much with some of his other responsibilities.
Yeah, because I gotta imagine the majority of the people that drive down the road that weren't involved with that project don't know that TAC was the instrumental party in putting those trees in.
Agreed, agreed.
If you have an install picture or a meeting picture, Rich,
It's
compare with,
filtered water and we also
compare with the,
of course, and the cocktails and wines and beers here. There's covered in that.
where are we? So if you did if we had a meeting, or maybe there's an install, or I think the bishop was there at some point.
Yes.
Anyhow, sort of a then and now for comparison.
I can dig some stuff out because we used it for the Tree City USA for the cemetery there with that advertisement of when the bishop came. So I can get some stuff out for that. I've got another question for the members of the committee too. We've got something, and even though Economic and Community Development paid for it, like I said, Rich and Peter from TAC were a key ingredient to putting the MLK corridor plantings together. I've got a aerial photo that we had to do for an event last week related to that, that has all of the trees located on that corridor. Would we want to see an aerial photo with the trees in that whole corridor on there? I could give you that with a couple pictures too, a PDF of it.
Paul, I never wrote you a strategy for that. Is there a write-up necessary for that? In other words, there is a strategy for what we did and why we did it.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to send it to us, we could take the strategy, the written, plus the aerial photo and a couple of snapshots that I have from when we were planting them in the field, and we'd have the whole package.
Is there, did you write it? Was there anything written up so far? Just so I don't contradict anything.
No,
All right, so just put those pieces together in my spare time. Maybe 100 words. And that would be it.
okay, I got
think
an
that would
aerial
be
photo.
Great. I think that would be great. And I think that the involvement of Rich and Peter is absolutely enough for it to be on our website, because we're TAC. I mean, there are things that, when I sat at the Arbor Day or the Earth Day, I'm sitting there as a representative of the group, even if other people couldn't make it. So I agree. It's absolutely very relevant. And so one of the things we were going to add to the website are some of these photos for events, so we can have, and anybody, please, if you have another idea, I'm not sure how I envision it, but maybe by year, people can click on 2016, 2017, 2018, whatever, I'm making it up, 2022, and it'll just be like some different events that happen. And we click on the link for the event, it'll give you some pictures. But if there's another way, maybe that Larry thinks he can arrange it, I mean, I'm open to suggestions. I just want the information on our website. And then the other thing that I think we should have on there are some of these grants that we've gotten, because by now we've gotten at least 4 or 5 grants as TAC. And I think it shows a lot of our initiative that we are bolstering our budgets in order to plant more trees by taking the time to do some of this other work. So I think that would be pretty cool too. And again, if anybody has any other ideas for things that we should have up on there, completely open to it. And Larry is really receptive.
Paul, do you have stuff for 50 Washington Street when we did that?
I have some pictures of that, yes.
That's
I
probably
have some
one of our
pictures of the
most
students
impactful
also.
grants and planting efforts down in the Sono area.
I definitely have, we just really want 1 or 2 pictures, and I have, because I remember Josh sent me the pictures that were taken and the ones that he put on social media. So we definitely have the pictures that were kind of approved for social media. We can use 1 or 2 of those.
And even
Yeah,
now,
definitely.
those trees have increased in size as well.
I just drove by the other day and I was blown away with how amazing they looked. Is that whole
Look
corner
great.
has been absolutely transformed. It looks spectacular.
Yeah,
It really does. Okay, so I think amongst us, we can definitely come up with some really good, Sonia, you can send us some pictures of Sono Gardens, and we can talk about those plantings as well. And I think it would be really impactful to have that on our site.
Sonia's not moving.
I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I can definitely get some pictures of that and send to you.
That would be great, Sonia. Thank you. And I also the Sono Gardens condominium folks wrote the board of directors and owners at Sono Garden Condominium sent a really, really nice letter thanking the TAC members for some additional plantings that went on recently. So really appreciate all of the support from your neighbors there, Sonia, and really appreciate you letting them know that this came from, as the result of TAC and some city efforts. I think it's important, so we really appreciate, you doing that.
Not a problem.
Okay, Jeff,
Very good.
patiently waiting. How are things going with the NTA?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, they're going great. We just had a fundraiser just to let you in on sort of what the happenings of the NTA in June have been. We just held a Queen's Tea fundraiser for the Queen's Jubilee, the Platinum Jubilee of the Queen of England. We thought we'd have some fun as a fundraiser to sort of tie into her request, which was instead of giving gifts to the royal family, the idea was that she asked her citizens of all over, wherever England sort of rules over, or has, the monarchy rules over. I'm not exactly sure, but it's not the US. But the thought was, her idea was to plant a tree in her name. So we sort of had a little tea party, a cocktail hour with some finger foods. There was a pretty good turnout. There was about, I'd say 20 or so people there.
Where was it held, Jeff?
30. It was held at one of our board members' homes in South Norwalk. And we invited, I'm pretty sure the committee had invited everyone here. I hope that you all got an invitation. If not, I apologize. But we also invited the mayor, and just some people, some neighbors and things like that. The weather was kind of crappy, but I'm happy to say we did raise about $1,300, which isn't massive, but it's something. And I'm also happy to hear that I wasn't off on how many trees the city had planted, the TAC and the city had planted. I said that this spring that the TAC and the city of Norwalk had planted about 200 trees. So 171 is pretty close. And if you include the fiscal year, then I was below. But just educating how much the city of Norwalk actually does plant trees, instead of bringing the attention to trees that fall and come down and prune, because I feel like that's what a lot of the press gives attention to, instead of the hard work that you all are doing, and we all are doing at both the NTA and the TAC. So just shedding light on that, and I think people were receptive to that. The other thing that we had gone to was Pride in the Park. I believe I wasn't there, but I heard that there was a decent turnout, and we did talk to a lot of people. So as for Pride in the Park goes, it was an underwhelming showing of people for whatever reason. But for us as the NTA, we definitely talked to a lot of people. We reached a new crowd, or a different crowd, I guess, of people, a lot of families. And I heard that we had spoken, or Tom and a couple of the board members had spoken to Bob Duff, who was in attendance, and he was in support of trees. I don't know exactly. We have a meeting this week that we're going to catch up on Thursday. But from the sounds of it, Bob Duff mentioned that he was in favor, and if we needed places to plant trees, to let him know. So I don't know if that was lip service or not, but I'll get more information on that on Thursday.
Tom was working very hard.
Good. Yeah.
Rob was
Yeah.
working very hard.
Yeah. So yeah, but a good we reached people who haven't heard of us, families, and just broad in general. So that was a good event. Also on the note of grants, we got approved for it was a DEEP grant. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just look at what the name was. I believe it was $10,000. It was the tree equity. I'm sorry, urban. I just want to get the name right because I don't know it.
We applied for the same grant. I think it's the urban forestry equity through capacity building.
Yes, so we got
grant. Yeah,
Exactly. So we got funded for $10,000, I
Okay.
guess additional to what you guys had gotten. So, and to be honest, I don't know what that means, through capacity, but basically it's, from what I understand, it's they're helping us reach more people and get more done through capacity to the organization. I'm not sure, but I have to read through that grant. We reached out to a grant writer, so to help us out with this stuff. So that was good. And I think that's it. Oh, at our fundraising event, there was a member of the board of public schools there. And I'm pretty sure we've been sort of in talks with, I believe, Paul and Ken Hughes and everyone about creating some sort of cohesive arboretum plan for the Norwalk Public Schools. Originally, we did get approved for 9 trees, I believe, at Ponus Ridge, but I think that the Board of Education sort of on board of looking at, and the town and Public Works is looking on board with looking at the entire public school network as sort of a arboretum, and sort of educating through that. And a couple of schools are doing the outdoor classrooms. So we're kind of tying it all in to, basically the idea is schools are essentially lawns, and they're clear cut, right? For lack of pinpointing each school, but to generalize, schools are clear cut for fields, grass, and whatnot. So the idea was, if we're teaching about the importance of trees, we're not setting a great example with where the kids go and learn. So why not plant some more trees at the school so that we can essentially put our mouth, or what's the phrase?
it's like practicing what you preach, right?
Yeah, I was saying,
Yeah.
put where your hand, yeah. You wanna essentially do what you're saying. So they were pretty on board with that. So we're looking at developing sort of a citywide arboretum network throughout the schools. So that's pretty exciting. And also involving the kids in the design as well. So
Very cool, very cool. And I love it. There's an educational component there, and there's always a teaching moment to be had. So so really, really cool.
Yep.
Jeff had
Alright, is-
previously mentioned trying to take advantage of some of the sites, and we've always been targeting some of the sites. So with Parks and Rec and the new director, and Anthony Carr, plus the schools, trying to get everybody involved now to actually start getting more of the schools involved, and just instead of one or two, like when we did over at Fox Run, trying to get maybe the whole network involved.
And I just want to again echo, I think Rich and a couple of members at the last meeting applauded the trees that had went in over at Jefferson. So it really shows the trees over at Jefferson Elementary School are fantastic. It just shows that what you guys and we all are doing here is going a good way and changing the mindset of what trees should do for public spaces. So it's encouraging.
So those trees are part of the improvements. So just saying it's, and they should be standard for that kind of development or that kind of change on school grounds, not
Correct.
secondly thought at.
So that's another one for the fall and spring of 23 planting season. If anybody sees schools that really look like they need trees, please let us know.
And one other thing, Paul, you guys had mentioned the woman who came in and talked about the tree placement program through GIS to study the tree canopy throughout Connecticut and Norwalk. A simple tool instead of going that way would be Google Maps. I know Paul and I had worked on a Google map before, and then happy to hear about the GIS system. So maybe if you can share that with us, and we can also partner with NTA plantings, or we'll just get you a list so that you can plug them in.
Yeah, either
that'd be
way,
good.
get us a list, or we can share it with you, because I was able to get the IT department to put together what is essentially a survey. And they
Cool.
tied it to our GIS so we can upload it live. So it worked out really well.
Awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jeff. Is there any other business that anybody needs to cover or mention or bring up?
Sort of a sideline, the trees on Belden look pretty good, the oaks and the platanus we put in, but the tree wells look like caca. Is there anything we can do? It's not necessarily it's not necessarily a TAC issue. It's more of a city issue. I mean, do I need to nudge Jessica maybe, or, I mean, we have weeds growing up in the tree wells, and we don't want to put grates on, and they just don't look good. Now, I know the Norwalk Wall Street Association here has already replanted the tree wells on, Wall Street technically with the vinca. We actually refresh those every year and put grates around them, and they seem to be holding. But the ones on Belden in front of the post office, in front of the market up to, what's the first cross street there? I mean, they're actually taking hold, but the wells are all full weeds, so.
I got a question for you, Peter. Is it something where we would maybe want to put the flexi pave in?
I'd be fine with that. I mean, anything would just clean it up. I mean, it's very difficult to plant those without tree guards because they get trampled and dogs make use of them.
All right, let me see what kind of money we have in the different accounts and see if we have money to possibly, maybe we can get DPW to clean them out and then flexi pave them. And that way there, it keeps the weeds down, gives you a little more sidewalk area, but yet allows the water to get in for the trees.
Even mulch for the season. No weed whacking. No weed whacking.
Yeah, no,
Because they
yeah.
don't have guards on.
Yeah, they can't do that. No, that's definitely
Yeah,
not the thing to do.
it's looking scruffy. So it's just, there's a lot of tension down here, these last couple of weeks with the plane that's going on. It's just, it's downtown.
Mhm.
All right, let me talk with them.
That's the band outside at Freeze Park. If you hear the hum. Well, okay. Tuesday night,
Tough crowd.
Tuesday night, bands in Freeze Park. It's all right. It's a good thing. And and you have your interview with your tree possible vendor. I'm sure you asked the question, where do they get their trees? And do
Yes.
they have multiple sources? It's just one of those things because I've dealt with a landscape contractor on a recent project in Sleepy Hollow, and they're giving me garbage, and I get tired of getting garbage. It's like if I reject a tree three times and you send me the same kind of tree, what's wrong with you?
It's a supply chain issue, Peter. Everyone, but that's still not an issue or not a.
No, you don't send me a tree with the leader clipped.
No.
That's a mistake. It's a bad contractor in this case.
Accidentally on purpose.
Just not paying attention, thinking I'm not gonna look.
Yeah. I'm trying to slip it by. All right, guys. Anything else? All right, then I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll
Happy
second that.
Happy 4th of July weekend. to
Oh,
everyone.
yeah,
Oh my
you
God.
too. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Happy
Good
4th.
night.